Alaska is big. Its 586412 square miles are bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. Alaska has got lots of mountains. Alaska has 17 of the 20 highest mountains in North America. Denali, at 20,310 feet, is the tallest mountain in North America. Dogs are not just cute, furry friends in Alaska. They are snow athletes who can transport freight and mail across much of Alaska. Alaska moves oil. The Trans-Alaska pipeline system has transported more than 18 billion barrels of oil from Alaska's Arctic North Slope to south central Valdez, a distance of 800 miles. Alaska is remote, far, far away from the mainland, and Chinese dictator Xi Jinping is currently salivating at the prospect of owning Alaska. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group, and I'm your host Atul Mishra. In this video, I will tell you how China is dangerously surveying the area around USA's northernmost state with a clear intention of invading it. Let's begin. Leave alone giving up on aggression in the South China Sea. China is now looking to intrude American territory itself. China, a subtropical country that calls itself near Arctic, wants to intrude its military assets into the fast melting Arctic. First, China decided to bully Russia, but Putin proved too big to bully for Chinese President Xi Jinping. So Xi is now targeting the US territory of Alaska, with Biden looking incapable of taking on China. A latest report by The Drive has mentioned that the US Coast Guard has released images of a fleet of 4 Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy warships sailing near the US Exclusive Economic Zone, or the EEZ, near Alaska's Aleutian Islands. Chinese state-run publication Global Times has published a report celebrating the actions of PLA Navy, calling it the display of far sea capabilities or countermeasure against US provocation. Initially, China wanted to claim a sovereignty over the Russian Far East territory and find a pathway into the Arctic via Russia. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin was able to preempt Chinese aggression. He roped in Japan and India into the Russian Far East territory. Within the Arctic, Moscow was able to mount further pressure on China by building a fleet of warships to push back against any Chinese aggression, test firing hypersonic and anti-satellite missiles in the Arctic, and reviving a Soviet-era lab to test weapons in the extreme conditions of the Arctic. For China, entering the Arctic is an indispensable geopolitical goal. Presently, Chinese vessels have to invariably pass through the Strait of Malacca, a narrow passage of water at the junction of the Indian and Pacific Oceans. The Strait of Malacca is subject to Indian influence, and therefore China wants to find an alternative route to Europe and the rest of the Western world via the Arctic. Since China can't enter the Arctic via the Russian coast, Chinese President Xi Jinping is targeting Alaska. China has been trying to augment its influence in Alaska for quite some time now. When Xi visited the US in 2017, he stopped at Alaska and not the Silicon Valley after leaving the Mar-a-Lago summit with US President Donald Trump. He avoided visiting Silicon Valley, the hotspot of American businesses, and announced investments in Alaska's oil and gas exploration sector instead. She wants to make Alaska economically dependent on China and exploit the strategically situated US state that has a long coastline along the Arctic Ocean. US President Joe Biden and his administration have shown a disposition to bow down before China. Even during the Alaska summit earlier this year, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Director of the Central Foreign Affairs Yang Jiechi clobbered US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The American delegation appeared defeatist and totally disinterested in standing up to Chinese bullying. Xi Jinping decided to send a group of PLA Navy warships into the USA's EEZ near Alaska because he was sure that Biden won't respond in a tough way to Chinese bullying and intimidation tactics. And this is exactly what happened. The Biden administration hasn't given a sharp reaction as a fleet of Chinese Navy vessels literally insulted America's sovereignty. Recently, the US military's Defense Visual Information Department Service, or DVIDS, had released photographs of the Chinese vessels taken on August 29 and August 30. Captions to one of the photographs stated the planned task force included a guided missile cruiser, a guided missile destroyer, a general intelligence vessel, and an auxiliary vessel. The DVID's website removed the photographs later for reasons best known to the US. However, one thing is clear, the Biden administration has given only a muted response to Chinese aggression. Such behavior is only going to encourage China to intrude into the USA's EEZ more frequently and find ways to mark its presence in the Arctic. Meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party mouthpiece Global Times went into a celebration mode. The CCP mouthpiece stated that if the report of Chinese vessels entering the USA's EEZ is true, then activities by Chinese warships are likely a normal Farsi training amid the PLA Navy's rapid development of such capabilities. Global Times added that the incident could be seen as a countermeasure against US military provocations on China's doorsteps in the name of freedom of navigation. China is therefore looking to justify its expansionism by criticizing freedom of navigation exercises in the South China Sea, where China claims almost the entire maritime region way beyond its baseline through absurd concepts like historical maritime rights and the Nine-Dash Line. This is again an indication of Beijing continuing its expansionism near the US territory of Alaska.